So isn't eXp a scam? I mean, that's what I thought when it was originally presented to me. I'm curious because you guys are both powerful humans and like powerful agents. Was that your first inclination too? Like, man, this is a scam.
You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I never thought it was a scam.
Okay.
But previous coaching systems would ask me, do you want to be a recruiter or do you want to be an agent? And it would downplay the agent attraction as if there was something wrong with it.
Yeah, as though it would like take away from...
Or make you lesser of an agent.
Yeah, so make you lesser of a business person.
Right.
And or take you away from production. Now, I'm wondering because you've been with the company for how long, a year?
A little less than a year.
A little less than a year.
Yeah.
Did it affect your production at all?
Not actually, it's made it better.
That's so interesting.
I can actually genuinely partner with people and they want to stay. They don't want to take everything I teach them and go be their own agent.
Yeah.
They're very happy. There's room for them to grow.
That's right.
And I grow with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. How about you, Natalie?
I think that I never thought it was a scam. I just thought that the way that people positioned it, they called, eXp people recruiters. And there are people who go out there and recruit versus attracting, right? So I think our organization does a good job of putting ourselves out there and really attracting the right people that want to join us, and not so much going out there and being like, hey, we put out material, we give value, so the attraction is there.
Yeah.
So that for me was the big change, the big switch.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I know that you both are, again, very powerful, strong, not only humans, but also agents. So I'm positive that you were approached by other people, like 100%, probably multiple different times. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how you made the decision of who you were going to partner with, because I'm aware that this is like relationships plus value over time.
Sure.
And we've had relationships, over an extended period of time, but also that value piece. And sometimes people imagine, just because we know each other and we're cool, that should do it.
Yeah.
Where they forget about the value piece. So maybe you talk a little bit about that.
What's important to you, right? So if what is important to you is showing off and going to fancy parties, you're probably going to choose a different agent to partner with, right? If what's important to you is creating an income and having what you need to provide for your family, you're 100% going to partner with an elite builder.
Yeah.
You taught me exactly what to say, how to say it, what to do to make money now.
Yeah.
And I needed money now.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about you? And I'm appreciative of the opportunity. How about you?
I had been approached twice prior, which we spoke about.
We did.
And one of the times it was, just like, I guess telling me about the eXp, about, the company within itself, but what their organization offered, there was no value. It was also a person that was doing the same numbers as me. So like I wanted to partner with someone that was already where I wanted to go.
Sure.
And so I was like, no, I'm good, And then the second time it was the brand, and again, there was no skill set that I feel like I needed to learn from them.
Right.
And then obviously when it was presented to me in the proper way, then it was a no-brainer, definitely.
Yeah. That's awesome. So essentially there's a difference between kind of because eXp as a company provides some amazing things, and having access to the brokerage firm, you get access to a lot of their training and stuff, but it was also what is being offered above and beyond just access to the brokerage and the training that's already there. And you mentioned about production. It seems like that was also a decision about value.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody who can add value to your situation and help you to grow and expand. So that makes total sense to me. Do you have any questions, or is anything coming up for you?
She makes a great point about how you presented it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that you add value, another way you add value, is you teach people how to present about eXp.
For sure.
Because that's what they're going out there to do as well.
Yeah.
You have this whole slide deck and you explain it so well with like the value stack, how the models, like the old way that real estate was, how it's evolving,
Sure.
what that means for the business,
Yeah.
with the industry. So I think that's a huge piece of the value.
That makes sense. Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
So, and now that you've been with the company, I think both of you guys like about a year,
Right.
and you've been elite builders for like about a year. maybe share like your experience up until this point, because I think a lot of people, just in general in life, because I think marketers, they can oftentimes kind of overpromise and underdeliver. So it's like, oh yeah, all this stuff is gonna happen, this is gonna be great, blah blah blah, and then like you actually get in and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was. So maybe you talked a little bit about that versus the value that's promised and the value that's delivered.
Why don't you start?
Okay, so I love that you used overpromise and under-deliver, because I was at a brokerage at one point that there was a lot of promise, and that's exactly what I called it, over-promising and under-delivering. And, many broken promises, many things that said that were going to be done and never happened. So, you always get left with kind of a bad taste.
Yeah.
And then when you do join an organization where it is met, all the things that have been promised, it is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And you feel so empowered by all the value that is actually given to you or provided to you.
That's awesome. Well, it means I'm so happy that that's your experience, because that 1000% is the intention. How about you?
Tell me the question again.
Oh, so as far as, marketers can position things in such a way where they seem like really nice and shiny, but then when you actually like get the product or get the service, you're like, oh, this doesn't meet the expectation, right? So they overpromise, underdeliver. And now that you've been with eXp for a year, you've been roughly about a year, you've been with the Elite Builders for roughly about a year. So the value that was promised versus the value that's delivered, what's been your experience? Is it in alignment? Does it supersede it? Like, what is it? And that's not a leading question. I'm genuinely interested in your answer.
No, absolutely. So I would call myself like a mid-producing agent, and I think a lot of agents who come from our coaching that we've all done are in the same place, like 25 to 75. And the goal for all those people is like 1 million GCI, right? So I get to 1 million GCI, I've made it, I'm a somebody. And it's like kind of ego-based. And when you're moving in that direction without the right partners and the right alignment, you are burning out. Like, you're hitting this ceiling. You don't have the right systems. No one's teaching you those systems. You don't have the right agents to help you perform, because you don't know how to partner with people in a way that's collaborative versus pushing them down. So you're not able to grow together, and you're constantly hitting this wall that you cannot get past. So for me, partnering with you took me from a mid-level agent that kept banging my head on the wall at like 50 to 75, 15 million, 30 million, to now I can see how I can do $10 million a year, partnering with the right people where everybody can make money, and I don't need to beat them down to be the leader.
Yeah.
And I have the right systems that I've been trained in to not hate my life.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Like, we're able to do these things because we have the right mentorship and guidance. So for me, it's been life-changing.
That's awesome.
I'm actually gonna add to that. Also, like, you pour into us and you watch us evolve, but the same way we've watched you evolve.
Yeah. Because we were talking last night where you were like, bro, you used to like rag on social media and like look at me like,
And it's crazy to watch too, because I think that someone who's, done more than us, to watch them also grow and not stay stagnant, it also gives us like,
you believe in your leader.
1000%. Yeah. So that's a big deal too.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I appreciate your kind words, because what I'm aware of is if I want to continue to, as I grow more, I can give more. And if I want to hold the attention or add value to people of your guys' caliber and others that have partnered with us, I have to be constantly growing and evolving and changing and having a willingness to change my mind. You were funny. You were like, yeah, bro, you used to look at me and be like, oh, you post? I list. That's cool. And now you see me like,
all over social media.
All over social media. And
then he tells me, I'm catching up to you.
I know I did.
I'm catching up to you. I'm like,
what's his most famous line?
Which one?
Closed mind.
Oh, yeah. The most expensive
thing
you can
have is a closed mind.
He's practicing what he preaches.
Right.
Yeah.
And what else is there to leadership than that?
Right. Yeah. And that's awesome. And it's cool because as you guys were sharing this, like me and Jose were talking. He's in the room, by the way. He's just over there.
What's up, Jose?
This is a family affair. So we were talking, and we were saying yesterday, we were talking to a group of people, and we were talking about like different opportunities or vehicles that are available to them. And it's almost as though, like, let's say me and Jose were like, hey, we went like 9/10 of the way into a forest fought off all the bears and lions and fell down and ate some berries we shouldn't have and got sick and like this whole thing. And then we get to like the end of the forest and we look at each other and we're like, oh, this isn't the way. Yeah. Like, this is cool. And we learned a lot from it. At the same time, it's not the most leveraged way. It doesn't provide for the most margin. Because to your point, what you were describing, it's more common than it's not. I think it's the rule, not the exception, which is that success in our business traditionally is working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
And if I do that, there's zero margin in my life for these other transcendental needs that I have, like spiritual needs, like family, like relationship needs, like mental needs, physical needs. So it's looking at the landscape, looking at the vehicles that I have at my disposal and saying like, okay, which one provides me with the biggest platform and multiple different ways of receiving compensation that will allow me to have margin in my life, so I can not only have resources, but I can also have awesome relationships, that I can also have, you know, my mental health be on point, physical health be on point, because usually those other things fall to the wayside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note,
Yeah.
I want to know from these two ladies, like, what their vision is in, you know, being within eXp, being within the Elite Builders. Like, what is your ultimate vision of like what you can grow?
Oh, y'all need to give me an hour for that.
I like that you're thinking really big.
Yeah. I know my God-given mission is to help the disenfranchised and empower them. My personal story, I know that I'm here for a purpose. And eXp gave me the ability to really, truly do that. All the agents who partner with me, you guys watch them probably, right? They are not what you think of as successful. They have gone through a lot of hardships, a lot of adversity, and what we have given them has empowered them to be wealthy, create wealth, and also invest wealth, and have multiple income streams, something that most women don't even talk about. We don't even know about, right?
Yeah.
So it's really been life-changing for me being here, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I could go on and on about it.
Yeah.
No, I think that's amazing. Like, you definitely have a purpose. You're here for a reason, and I'm like so here for it. I'm ready to watch you go all the way.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
it reminds me of like how when we had dinner, maybe it was like 2 years ago, and you told me a story that I don't think you shared with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when you told it to me, I was like, immediately, what did I say to you?
You need to share that with the world.
Yeah, I'm like, you need to share that with everybody. Like,
Yeah.
everybody needs to hear that. And you were like, at the time. And now you've grown into, like more people do need to hear that. Because it's not really about you. It's not about kind of what you personally been through. It's more about, hey, this is a story that can empower others.
Yeah, it's
Right.
inspiring.
Super inspiring.
Even if you haven't gone through something similar, it's like, what are my excuses? Like, look what she has gone through, and look where she is. Like, what's my excuse?
Yeah.
Thank you.
know? So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
We're excited. I mean, I think all of us are really here to help people.
Yeah.
And that's why we've been growing at this rate, because
That's right.
we're genuinely really helping people.
Yeah.
And there's a need for it that wasn't being met elsewhere.
Love that.
What about you, Natalie?
I think that what made me really, number one, appreciate what eXp is about and what we're about is when I got pregnant during COVID and I had no other income other than what my production was. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, so that made me realize that I needed to tap into something else. There was something else that I needed to, because I mean, you break a leg and you can't go out doing showings.
Sure.
Like, something happens to you health-wise. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So that really was the tipping point. And obviously, when he jumped ship, I was like, I'm out. I'm going with you. And, you know, going back to what she really speaks passionately about women and like any other woman, I'm a single mom. Any other woman that has been in my shoes that didn't know that there was other options that they can, you know, make money other ways. Like, I want to be able to help. So
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, super cool. Let's go. So then, what are you most excited about, right? Because I feel like this platform opens up like this huge runway. So your next 3, 5, kind of 10, or let's say 3 to 5 year vision for not only your production, but also, you know, with attraction and things of that nature. Like, what are you the most excited about at this moment?
I love being here.
Yeah.
I love that we're all here together. This is the first one.
I know.
Like 20 years from now, we're going to remember this, and like that was our first time.
It's funny. I told Jose, because we were out overlooking in the mountains as we're sitting there, and I said, bro, I want you to remember something. He's like, what? I'm like, this is the funnest part. This part where it's like, bro, when you're having these conversations, what happens if, when we do this, like it's gonna be like this. It's the fun. It's actually more enjoyable than when you do it.
The fun isn't getting there.
The fun isn't getting there, and it's the journey and the people that you're with. Like how powerful it is that right now they can't see as they're watching this, but we have like 5-6 individuals in one room that are all super powerful, all with the intention on collaborating and helping each other accomplish their goals and objectives.
And we all truly believe in each other.
Yeah.
There's no competition in this room. Like we are truly lifting each other up, which you really don't see in a lot of places.
No.
Right? So I'm really excited. I buy into the vision from the first time you told me.
Yep.
And I want to say, like, I ran with it in my direction, and my direction just kind of helped close the circle a little bit for all of us.
That's right.
That's what we're all doing. We're running out, all of us, right? We're going as far as we can go, and we're just making our circle bigger.
That's right. I love it.
And we all have our own gifts.
Yeah.
You know, that we bring to the table. Some of us are really good at sales, at presenting. Some of us are really good at systems. Some of us are really good at empowering women. Some of us have inspiring stories. Some of, you know, like we each have our little piece to the puzzle, but when you put it all together, it's a masterpiece.
Well, her and I were even talking last night about how I picked a coach. And going back to being collaborative versus competition, I told her, I was like, I wanted someone in my market. So she told me, I find that interesting because most people would think, I don't want the competition. I don't want my coach to take my business. And I was like, I've never thought about it like that. Like I always thought like, South Florida market's the wild, wild west. I want someone who understands the wild, wild west.
Yeah. I want a gunslinger, baby.
Like, you know. So
That made me respect you more.
yeah, so I was like, no, I need someone here.
That's
I
a
need
good
someone who
mindset.
understands. Like, it's not going to take my business. There's enough for all of us.
Yeah.
You know, so it was, that was our little.
Some people have that scarcity mindset, though. They're like, oh, they're going to steal from me. But your mindset was like, I want more, and how do I find more?
Well, it's a huge transition because I was talking with another one of our partners, Brian, and he knew me. He was at an office that I used to have ownership in, and he knew me. He knew a previous version of me, which was like the Kaiser Soze of real estate. Like nobody ever saw me. I would come into the office once a year, unannounced, give a talk. People would come in the room, and then I just like peace out, wouldn't talk to anybody, and leave. And
Very social, Aaron.
I know, and I wasn't kind of. I was playing finitely. I wasn't playing infinitely. So. But I can attest to mine and Carla's life has changed dramatically in a 3-year time span because I stopped looking at people as competitors and started looking at them as collaborators. And then the other thing that's true is that harder work, like grinding, leads to incremental gains. Like there's an importance to hard work. I think everybody in here is like super hard workers. I push up against anybody. But what I mean by incremental gains is like if I, make 50, 60, 100 contacts a day and I do that for a year, like I might do 10 more deals, 15 more deals, like an incremental gain. But a quantum leap where you go from one place to like a 10x or like a 15x or 20x different place, that comes from different strategies, different techniques, different mental maps, different approaches, different vehicles. So I just want to kind of commend you guys for moving in that direction towards different thoughts, different strategies, different vehicles. And it truly is like a privilege and a pleasure to partner with you.
Thank you.
Let's go, let's grow.
Everybody, Jose Luis Morales here and
Aaron Novello, and we have with us the founder of eXp himself, Mr. Glen Stanford. We really appreciate you taking some time to be with us here today, Glen. And I wanted to say to you formally, thank you very much for the opportunity, for seeing what it is that you saw, and for having the kind of mindset and the mental map that as you give away pieces of the pie gets bigger for everybody.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that is the sort of the basic secret. You saw the one slide yesterday. Somebody had the Zig Ziglar quote: "You can have anything you want in life if you just help other people get what they want."
Yes.
And that's the whole idea. That's the idea of the pie always getting bigger, based on creating ways to help more people.
Yeah, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that very big decision, which is directly in alignment with that,
which is to lower the amount of FLQAs that are required in order to unlock all 7 levels. Was that part of that decision-making process?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we recognized is that for very diligent agents that are really building, there were a couple things. One, the economy is a little tougher, so we got agents that are just leaving the business less productive. So it's harder to open up those bigger levels.
Sure.
And then two was we wanted to make it more achievable for the average agent who actually put in the work.
Sure.
And so those are the two things that we thought about. Obviously, we've got some we'll call it some formulas in terms of how we structure the sustainable rev share and adjusted GCI. And the idea was, one, let's make it a little bit easier to get to the larger payouts, but then also at the same time, let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent that's in agent attraction as well. So we're kind of bumping up levels 1 through 3 payouts through our AGCI program, and then using some of that other monies to go there, and it really makes it a much more democratized rev share model, and that's really sort of the democratization. So it's not just a select few; it's actually more well-rounded in terms of the rev share.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
What I wanted to ask is, how did you come up with this idea of like eXp? Like where did it get started? Like was it like how did you come up with it, and how did you go about designing it? Like what was that process like? Did you hire consultants? Did you already have this type of background?
Yeah, I've been involved with probably 5 or 6 different network marketing companies and I'd been mentored by some really good mentors in that industry, some guys who are top money earners. And so I'd learned a lot about the industry, and I always found, and just like you can see here, when you actually create an aligned compensation model, it brings out a different type of version of yourself.
Yes.
Because you're actually thinking about the possibilities of what this could become, rather than it being all about working for a company. You're now working in partnership with a whole bunch of people. Yeah. And it just creates a different level of enthusiasm.
And it creates, it makes me think about Warren Buffett, where you have owners that treat things as though they're an owner. And it's a completely different dynamic versus if you feel like you're an employee and you don't have any ownership.
Right. If you don't have upside, why are you going to actually put the time in?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Have you ever read the book Blue Ocean Strategy by any chance?
I have scanned it, and I've done a Blue Ocean workshop. Probably in 2012.
That's kind of what I thought about eXp when I read that book. I thought like they have all the principles of Blue Ocean, where you eliminated all the things that aren't really needed to run a brokerage, and you created a better model that basically serves the agents and serves everybody instead.
Yeah, I think one of the premises of a Blue Ocean strategy, there's a principle of a book called The Entrepreneur's Manual I read in 1983. And it was about, if there's a problem that's not being solved, and it keeps on coming up over and over again for yourself and others, and you can think of yourself as a focus group of one, if there's not a solution out there, and there's enough people that have that same problem, then all you need to do is go and solve it, and you won't have any competition because obviously it hasn't been solved.
That's right.
And so the idea was, one, in 2009, everything was bricks and mortar, but we had high-speed internet everywhere. The future of real estate brokerage and business in general, if you thought about it, even in 2009, I don't really care who it is, they think 30 years out, are they thinking there's going to be more offices, or are they thinking about everything's going to be on an app and it's going to be totally mobile? Well, 30 years out, it's definitely going to be there. And so ours was like, why don't we build the brokerage of the future today? Knowing full well that a bunch of the infrastructure is not there yet, but if we start building it now, then when the infrastructure really works, we'll be there.
Yeah, and it takes a tremendous amount of conviction, because when you're saying that, people think you're like an alien from Mars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or people think like you're crazy. So I was going to ask you, like was there ever a time when you casted this vision where you were like, man, like maybe this isn't going to work out. Maybe I should throw in the towel.
Fortunately, we never had a month where we had fewer agents than we did the month before, so we were consistently growing. The only reason why we would have thrown in the towel was if we couldn't get to a certain number of agents, we couldn't see ourselves getting there. But as long as we saw ourselves getting there, which we did that whole process, then it was really just a matter of fate that it would just take place naturally.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to acknowledge you for is because I was with another company that you were with. I owned part of an office.
Right.
I sold it back. And what's so interesting to me is from a leadership perspective, I see you all the time.
Right.
In other companies, it's like ivory tower, never get access to them. They never like kind of are amongst the people. I know I'm imagining that's very intentional for you, no?
Yeah, it is. Another book that I read back in the 80s was In Search of Excellence by Tom Peters and Robert Waterman. And one of the principles was be close to the customer. And there was another concept called management by walking around. And it was all around, if you're in an ivory tower, you don't actually know what's going on.
No.
And so it is important that I'm in the trenches every day, having conversations, figuring stuff out, helping solve the real challenges that are going on at the front line.
And I'm wondering, is that your natural disposition, or is it something that you have to like?
Well, I'm an introvert by nature, but it's easy to operate as an introvert when you're around a whole bunch of people that you know, like, and want to be around. So that makes it a lot easier. But my natural tendency is if I didn't know, and this wasn't
your company,
I might not feel that as comfortable doing it.
Yeah, I understand. That's awesome.
One of the things that I admire about you, I feel like instead of hiring people that have never done what you want them to do, you go find people who have already done it. Like Michael Valdez, when you brought him onto the company, he had already done it for another brokerage where he grew their international presence. Have you always been like that, where you go out and find the right people, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this is my hiring feedback. I get 50% of my hiring right. I just wish I knew which 50% up front. Okay,
right?
Because I've had to go through a number of people to figure out what I think is a pretty good formula today. But we've hired people who were experts that we brought in that on paper looked amazing, and they were the worst hires. In other cases, we've brought in generalists who didn't know the industry, and they were great because they didn't have to unlearn bad habits. And so there was kind of a mix. Now, I think the company is now firmly footed in the direction it's going, that we can now bring in experts who will adapt to us rather than asking us to adapt to them.
That makes sense. Yeah, Michael told me that everything essentially rises and falls on leadership, where in other areas, like internationally, you'll have one leader in place, it'll be like, okay, you'll put another leader in, and that leader will produce in like 6 months what it took somebody a whole year to do.
For sure. Yeah, it does. And it happens time and time again. Like even a good leader, there's always going to be a better leader. There's always so you always got to be continually searching for the next leader, because we all go through bell curves of like production and leadership. Like I'm probably somewhere in the peak of my leadership prime
at the moment.
At the moment. So, but in 10 years, we want to have other leaders coming up because so we're always going to be looking for what's that next generation leader. I mean, last year Leo Perea joined us, and amazing guy, and so I see him as really next generation leader. 40 years old, was number one team in KW for a while, built a debt fund, went on to found Remine, sold that, now he's with us.
Yeah.
And so where do we find these next generation leaders? On the technology front, we've got a guy named Seth Siegler. Again, early 40s, super sharp, and we've got another guy who's the senior, Shoaib Ansari, who's been at Microsoft, he's been to all these big companies, but eventually he's going to want to step out, and we're going to have to see who is the next generation leader. So always looking for next leaders, but then if you got the wrong leader, one change can change everything.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like that's your gift. Like even you put John Tsai in leadership of Canada.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a leader in Florida, 100 and something agents, 20 or 30 FLQAs, 24 FLQAs. He actually mentored me for the last 10 years, did 200 deals as an individual agent and 100 plus deals for 10 years in a row. So somebody that's a rock star in the business. So if you ever need somebody in Florida, I would get
we're
this guy.
looking. We're looking.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can I ask you one last question? What does your life, a day-to-day look like for you now, as a CEO? Do you travel a lot? Are you in one location?
I travel a fair bit, yeah. But my day-to-day is, I get up, get a run in, jump on some emails, some communication, jump into a few meetings. Probably once or twice a week there's something strategic that we're really needing to make a decision on, so I'll kind of make some of those sort of decisions. But I live fairly remote, so it's just me and my significant other, and then I go to events.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have one final question for you, because you actually put me on to Biome.
Right.
So I'm curious, how's that going for you, that whole journey? I know you made a radical... Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go. All day. Yeah, it's terrific, man. Well, listen, we really appreciate you taking the time.
What's the future for eXp?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, we're growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think next 3 to 5 years we're going to be in the 300,000 to 500,000 agent range.
Let's go.
I love it.
Let's go. Let's grow.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
Thank you so much.
Nice
We appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
And off camera, if you ever need a leader in Florida, I'm telling you,
Oh, yeah,
this is somebody to consider.
Reach out to Michael Valdez, because we are actually looking in Florida. Tony King is now our regional growth leader for Texas. We're looking for one in Florida.
I don't know anyone better at what he does than him. And that's he's coached probably some of the top agents in the country.
Okay.
Comes from a Mike Ferry type of background, very similar. John Tsai knows him. Ask John for a reference on Aaron Novello.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
You don't want to
Appreciate
remember
you.
that name.
Be great.
What's up, team? We're here at Build 2023, day 2, and we have with us, that just took place, second day, and we have elite builder himself, the wonderful, fantastic Mr. Chris Camacho, king of Miami real estate. And I just wanted to get some of your kind of feedback as to, so far, day 1 and day 2, what have been some main takeaways for you?
Well, yesterday was Gary Brecka from 10X Health, and that really was an eye-opener for me.
Wasn't it?
Right? Everything that has to do with your genetic makeup and everything that could be going on with your body that I honestly had no idea could have been, possibly causing me some ailments, the whole gut issues and all of that stuff. That seems a little nasty, but when it comes down to it, right, it's how your body's actually running. So that was the biggest takeaway, was the eye-opener for health. And today there's a speaker, Dan Beer.
Yeah.
Right? And he was talking about guarantees on listing agreements.
Yeah.
I mean, how courageous is that? Because when I read the blurb that he had up there, I'll sell your home in 30 days, and if I don't...
How uncomfortable did you get?
I felt a bit uncomfortable when I was going through it. I'm I'm not sure. Especially when it said the language of he guarantees to sell it at their listing price.
Right.
But as time went on, it all started sinking, and I started seeing the possibilities. If the house doesn't sell in 29 days, and from that point forward, he's willing to cover the utility bills.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of bold statements in there. And the more that it sunk in my head, I'm thinking to myself, if the house isn't sold in 29 days, I clearly did something wrong.
You screwed up. Yeah, because you get to set the rules. Right. You get to dictate whether or not you take the listing or not. And what I was thinking, in the 2,000 homes sold that I've sold in my career, I would put a somewhat bold claim, but I realized in sitting there it wasn't that bold. Where I'd be like, hey, at any time at no charge, a performance guarantee, if you feel like I'm not performing, I'll let you cancel the agreement, and you won't be charged any money for it. And that's like a baby step, bro, because what he was saying is you want your offer to be so bold that your mom's calling you up like, hey, bro, are you sure this is what you really want to be doing? And what I thought was super interesting is what you're doing is you're taking away the perceived risk in their mind, when in fact the actual risk is really small when you set the rules. That was a very interesting takeaway.
So not only the covering utilities, the $3,000 back, all of those types of guarantees, He was talking about commission structures.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I know it made me a little sick to my stomach when he said the whole thing about 0%, right? Charging a seller 0% if they find the buyer. But it comes down to statistics.
What's the probability that happens? We know that.
Right.
Because we've been on so many listing appointments. The probability that happens is super small.
1 out of 100, I would say, is actually going to sell it on their own.
And that one, let's say you're like, oh, I'm out X amount of dollars, but the mindset is that's the cost of acquisition for 100 listings.
Right. And what I found is that when you provide sellers that level of guarantee, you know what they end up saying to you is, you know what, I found the buyer, but I want you to help me with all the paperwork, look into the inspection companies, I want you to do all the follow-up. So really, worst case, you're walking out with 2%.
Exactly,
right?
And it's a huge departure from what we were initially taught, which is no. Any other questions? Instead of, hey, here's a menu of options that you can choose from. It may be 0%. It could be 2% if you want us to still be involved. You found the buyer, but you want us to handle all the disclosures, all the contingencies, the inspection, the appraisal, the walkthrough, the whole thing, and you add it on.
Right.
And it could be this percent if I sell it myself. It could be 5%, and then it could be 6% if there's another agent involved. And full disclosure, all commissions are negotiable. Whatever you decide to do is fine. I'm not talking about the commissions I charge. Whatever you want to charge, you charge, right?
You got the NAR disclaimer out the way.
Exactly. So I'm just aware that that's a radical shift in thinking, that we're abiding by rules that don't exist.
Right. And he's selling 5% if he sells it himself. And then the 6 kind of was like, matter of fact, by the way, it's 6% if there's another agent involved.
Sure.
But again, it's that high level of certainty, of assurance for the seller going into the transaction, which I feel that if there's 5 people presenting and you come to the table, right, with this type of guarantee, no one else is offering that.
No. And what's interesting is it's all in the presentation, because I think me and you, we would do those sorts of things on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
When people would ask, like, well, let me ask you this. If we could come to an agreement in terms of professional fee, would there be any other reason why we couldn't proceed? Then we might get creative, understanding the risk-reward ratio, that the risk is really small. What he's doing is he's making very bold claims up front.
Right.
And I even thought, like, putting bold claims into, hey, if you want to partner with us at eXp and with the elite builders, we are so confident that this will be one of the best decisions you ever made in your life, that if you decide to partner with us and after 6 months you don't feel this is the best decision you ever made, we'll give you $5,000. Because we're eliminating that risk, the perceived risk, but we know that the statistic probability, because we're going to add so much value and pour on them so much, it's super small. But what it is it also taps into our tolerance for risk.
Correct.
Right?
How confident you are in yourself.
That's right.
With the value stack, for example, on the eXp side and on the listing presentation side, how confident are you as a listing agent that you're going to be able to perform for the seller? And I don't know about you, well, I'm sure about you. I'm extremely confident in my presentation to a seller, just as you are on the real estate sales side, and also with the coaching and the building of the Elite Builders Powerhouse Group.
Well, I love that, brother.
Don't invest in any assets until you're earning a minimum of $250,000 a year. A lot of agents, when they get involved in selling real estate, their goal and objective is not to stay a real estate agent forever. They're actually interested in becoming an investor, right? So what they'll do is they'll do deals, and from that income that they're earning, they're going to try to take that income and buy assets that pay the money, namely real estate, which is partially correct. One should wait until they're earning a minimum of $250,000 before they even start to look at buying assets. Reason being is if you're making less than that, you're probably not going to be able to purchase assets that would make a meaningful difference, right? So instead, what you should be doing is spending all of your time, energy, effort, and resources pouring into yourself to make yourself more valuable. So where could you be spending time, money, energy, and resources to make yourself more valuable? 4 places. The first one is getting proximity to a coach, trainer, mentor, somebody who can condense decades worth of learning into days, weeks, months, years. Really what you're buying is time. The second thing is spending time, money, energy, and resources on skill acquisition, the skills that are required in order to sell real estate in high volume. Knowing what to say and how to say it, handle the objections that are involved in the real estate conversation, understanding systems, processes, procedures, things of that nature. Again, it's kind of very close to a teacher, coach, mentor. It's probably going to be an individual. It's going to be a relationship. Investing in the S&Me 500, not the S&P 500. Third place that I would be spending money is with hiring staff. you can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to, right? So things like listing coordinators, transaction coordinators, VAs, right? And again, what you're doing is buying back time. And then the fourth place that I would be spending money is in personal promotion and advertising, right? So that way you can build a brand, again, that will help you to be able to earn more income. Once you've earned enough income, at minimum of $250,000, then and only then can you pick your head up and start to think about buying assets that pay you money.
Cool, guys. So I just want to start off just by saying welcome to everybody. Once again, we had the live event. We're not looking to sell you guys anything. We're not trying to get you guys to sign up for any coaching. All we're trying to do is just provide massive value in the community. So today we're actually going to be breaking down the listing presentation and giving you guys tips, tricks, and step-by-step how to present like a pro. My story is a little bit interesting because when I actually got started in real estate, I went on about 100 listing presentations in a year, and I probably only took about 5 of them, and it was extremely painful. I remember doing a video and just kind of like saying this is not going to happen again. I remember there was a time when Harold Powell beat me on a listing presentation. I was like, man, this is never going to happen again. So our intention here today is just to give, to kind of share value, and to help you guys improve your listing presentation and then help improve your business, improve your life. I met a gentleman by the name of Aaron Novello, and he started mentoring me, and he started kind of saying, hey, look, instead of saying this, say that. Instead of doing this, do this. And that's really when my career started to change. So 100 listing presentations, maybe only taking 5 of them, that's like a 5%. Now I'm up to like anywhere from 85 to 95%, meaning anytime I go on a listing presentation, I'm absolutely confident if they're signing a contract that I am the one that they're going to be signing up with. So today we're going to break it down. Welcome, Mr. Novello. How you doing, my man?
That's a privilege and a pleasure, man, for sure. And we're going to go ahead and get this party started. Again, 137 people in the room. Welcome, everybody. I found myself 9 months into selling real estate, and I was trying to figure it out on my own. And I wasn't doing a good job of it. I had only made $13,000 trying to figure it out on my own. And I made a decision. And the decision is that I wanted to partner with a top agent in a geographic area where I was selling real estate, which was Gainesville, Florida at the time. And that was helpful for me for 2 reasons, right? The first reason is obviously it got me access to some instruction and to leads, right? The second reason is it gave me a very up close, upfront, personal view of the difference between working with buyers and working with sellers. So here I was hustling, trying to schedule appointments, running around from one showing to the next, trying to keep track of keys and trying to write offers and get them accepted. And he was back at the office chilling behind the computer, waiting for offers to come in. And I made an executive decision in that moment. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this business, that's what I want to do, right? I want to be a dominant listing agent in the marketplace. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I recognized that that's where all the leverage was. That's where really I wanted to hang out. So what I was aware of is that was very true, and it's still very true today. And as our game has changed radically, which it has, right, since I started selling real estate in 2006, basically with the internet, all of these platforms have pushed into our space, whether it's Zillow, Redfin, HomeLight, Effective Agents, like all of these different platforms. And they're all trying to sell their own products or services, or they're all trying to feed us with leads, right? And taking referral fees in order to participate. And what I'm clear on is that they all need one thing like oxygen to breathe. What they need is data. They need listings, right? So if I can continue to be a prodigious provider of data, I will continue to be disproportionately rewarded for my efforts. Being that that's the case, the system doesn't need buyer's agents. It doesn't. Like, you can hire people and pay them a salary, which is essentially where that's moving towards. So what me and Jose are going to do is, really focus our time and energy on that. And once I realized that, I spent the next 16 years of my life obsessively and obnoxiously studying sales, persuasion, neurolinguistic programming, went on 10,000 plus, hours of listing presentations, all in an attempt to master that side of the business. And what that has provided me with is a wonderful lifestyle, right? Where I have sold 2,000 homes in my career, over 100 a year for the last 12 years in a row. 80% of that business is listings sold, and earning multiple millions of dollars being a top listing agent. I'm going to personally run through the actual listing presentation. And what me and Jose decided what would be the most instructive is in running through the listing presentation, it'll be like very informative, right? So I'll run through it and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to tell you what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. We used to, as agents, have a monopoly on information. There was a time 50, even 30 years ago, where consumers had no access to any information about real estate. Is that the environment that we're still in? And the answer is
Nope.
no. What now becomes important is helping them to self-discover what's true. It's more a collaborative effort. There's 3 forms of communication that are available to us. So one is paternalistic or authoritative, like I know and you don't. So that would be like, I study homes and prices every day, therefore I assume you'll list with me at a price because to sell. That would also be something like, hey, Jose, specifically, what causes you to believe that your home is this amount? The second form of communication is like informative, which is like, hey, you have all the information. Like, what do you think? Now, we just came out of an environment over the last 18 to 24 months where you can get away with that. You're like, hey, you have all the information. You're studying the stuff. You're looking at all these sites that give you estimates of value. So what do you think? And they would be like, well, I really think we should go at 650, Jose. And Jose was like, well, I appreciate that. Seems a little high, but let's give it a shot. And then we'd sell for 700. At the same time, I would also propose to you that that's not also what people really want. Like you could go to WebMD right now and gather a lot of information, but you still want a physician to probably review it and give you their opinion. And the third form of communication is interpretive, which is like, listen, Jose, I'm aware that, you've probably went on these sites that give estimates of value. So you may have an idea of realistically what you were thinking price-wise. I want to be clear that my intention is to help you to maximize value and get you every penny possible. I'm also of the mindset I'd much rather earn your business with integrity, being honest and straightforward about what's reasonable and realistic versus promising you something I know is not going to happen and not be able to deliver. So we're going to look at some information together as a team. And what's going to come to the surface is not a pinpoint to the penny in terms of price. Instead, it's going to be a tight, realistic range as to what's going to be reasonable. Now, you have 2 different approaches. Ask yourself, as a consumer, you in 2022, when you've done all your homework and research, if somebody walks in and says, don't you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal. I believe, I think, we can get this and blah, 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 blah. That's one approach. The second approach is what I just demonstrated. Here's my question to you is, as a consumer, which one makes you feel like you're actually in control? Which one feels collaborative? Which one feels like we're on the same team, right? Versus the other one that makes it combative, like we're fighting with each other and I know and you don't. Like I'm smart and you're stupid, right? So we have to make a decision. And I am telling you guys, if you are still utilizing that other approach of trying to come from a place of authority in an environment in which they have access to the same information that you do and they're studying it more than you do, you're making a mistake.
Like one time, I went to a listing presentation. I was told to close multiple times until the seller signed the contract. I closed multiple times, maybe 5 to 10 times. But the reality is I wasn't listening to what they wanted. I wasn't really presenting to what their real needs were. And I was very authoritative. And I remember leaving that presentation proud that I closed so many times because that was the message that I was being taught. I was like, you got to close, close, close. And I remember leaving there I did everything I could. I knew my scripts verbatim. I did this. But it was so foolish because I lost. I really lost.
They're looking for collaboration. They're looking for interpretive ways of presenting because as information becomes free, specialized knowledge becomes more powerful. And now what we're going to do is we're going to shift into the actual presentation itself, okay? And there's 3 different stages of the listing presentation. There's from the time that you hit the door to the time you start to talk about price. The second segment of the listing presentation is where you're talking about price. And then the third segment of the listing presentation is where you're handling objections and closing. So when we from the time we hit the door to the time we start to talk about price. So we hit the door, let's say it's in person, you knock on the door and you have to remember to smile. I don't know about you, Jose. Hey there, Aaron Novello. Pleasure to meet you. Do you want me to take my shoes off? That's just respectful. Like I'm in somebody else's space. And they're like, no, that's cool. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is just take a quick look around the home because somebody's going to be in control in that dynamic. And I want it to be me. And they're like, yeah, so great. So I'm noticing that the home is really tastefully furnished, right? So when we have offers come in, are we going to be including the contents or do you want to take that with you to your next destination? We're assumptively closing. And they're going to be like, well, no, I mean, I think we want to take it with us. Okay, great. I'll make a note of that. And then we continue to walk through the home and I'm going to assumptively close a second time. So if I remember correctly, Jose, you shared with me that you're not planning on making any changes or modifications before I start to bring buyers through. Is that correct? Who's bringing buyers through? I am. So that's 2 assumptive closes. By assumptively closing, I'm mentally moving the process forward for them. I'm going to take control again and say, okay, so we can sit down here in the kitchen if that works for you. Because if I don't do that, I'm going to end up on the couch, all scrunched up with a fucking little dog in my lap, and it's going to be awkward.
Now, just a little tip for everybody. Before I walk in the house, like I'm in my car, I review some of the comps really quickly. I show up to the door. Obviously, we've got a big smile on our face. I'm aware, though. Like, I do look around the front. I pay attention. Like, if they don't have their shoes on and all the shoes are to the right, that's when I will offer to take off my shoes, If they had their shoes on, because there's certain cultures as well, too. And then usually what will happen is people will say, great, they'll go with me, or they'll basically say, yeah, go ahead and take your tour, basically. And that kind of tells me a little bit about their personality. It's very easy for me to say, hey, look, I'm presenting with an iPad. It would actually be easier if you guys sit on this side of the table versus having to move the iPad back and forth as well, too. So for me, the iPad is actually a tool to be able to have a little bit more control of the presentation.
We got some of the most powerful, dynamic real estate agents in the country together for 3 solid days. Let's go.
We are gonna ball up right now. I haven't seen any of them play, but I know Jeff is gonna be super competitive, and I think Kelly's gonna be super competitive as well too. So Aaron's gonna be soft, Aaron's gonna be easy, bro, to ball up,
What's that? We'll see.
Hey, yeah. Let it slap, hit the roof, run it back, ooh. Double tap, 100 racks, ain't no cap, ooh. Run the stats up, go ahead, pop the tag. Baby, like the Tana in the cash, throw it in the bag. Hey, woo, woo, woo. I see diamonds flash, couple comments on the dash. Let me call you back. No sleep, low key, I'm insomniac.
Oh, let's go!
Got it too? It's tough, but they ain't shit. I got a broken back. I'm over here scoring points on them left and right. They don't want none of this.
Let's go.
Run. When we get done with this and Ryan comes back, there's only be a couple people left. But there's a bin. There's a bin. No workouts yet. There's a bin with a yellow top, and there's cami bottoms and tops in there. So I want everybody to go through that and find a matching pair, like a pair to put on for yourself. You're gonna need those tomorrow. All right.
Your personal power as a human is the speed with which you can take something from here and put it into reality. And the speed at which you can do that, right? And that's interesting. Because in the right state, I think you can do that quickly.
Not only that, but like realizing that we don't have to do it all ourselves. Like one of the things that I'm kind of realizing more and more, it's like the who. Like in that Mr. Beast interview, Mr. Beast is like a famous YouTuber. What he did is he created a chocolate bar called Feastables. And when they asked him how he created that, he's like, we just found the person that was the best at this, we found the person that was the best at that, we found this person, and put them together. And it's kind of the same thing with eXp. Glen Stanford, the CEO, is really good at finding the right people for everything, bro. So like for like the international team of eXp, he hired this guy named Michael Valdez, who did it for, I don't know if it was Remax or Coldwell Banker, but he grew their international brand, or he grew them internationally. So Glenn basically said, all right, who's the right person to help me this? And that's what some people are really good at. And that's what I'm trying to become really good at is like, okay, who, like from mental to action, a lot of times we get caught up in how versus who. Most of us get so caught up in the in the how. Yes. I gotta do this. I gotta talk to this person, dude. You gotta find one person that has already done it, hire them, and then it's even like Ryan Pineda. He's getting really good at finding the right who's, like unbelievable. Like it
helps when you have lots of resources.
There's a marketing guy that did all the marketing for one of the top flippers in the country. And he ended up acquiring him recently to consult for him and handle his marketing as well too. And what I thought when he did that, I was like, it's the right who. He's not thinking about like, hey, who can I train to do this? He literally went to the guy with the best track record and said, hey, come set this up for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. So a lot of it is just like, even like I hit up Aaron for his integrator recently. I told him, hey dude, because I'm tired of like trying to figure stuff out myself or dealing with people that haven't implemented that stuff. And Aaron's like, well, she's expensive. I'm like, I'm okay with it because all I'm going to have to do is, hey, this is kind of the vision. This is what I'm looking for. And she's going to say, can I make a suggestion? I would change this. I would change that. I said, great, let's do it. I'm going to give her some money and then it's going to be done.
It's going to be done. Because he saw the website.
The value.
And he saw the website that I just did and he's like, oh, this is dope. Like, this is good. And then instead of him trying to figure it out, it's like...
It happened for Ricky, too. He came across a videographer recently that's shooting some stuff for him and a photographer. It's the right who. Yeah. Like, and he's like, dude, this guy's awesome, bro. Like, so reliable, so this, so that, reasonable in this. It's the right who, basically.
You didn't say die.
Booyah. There's not enough room for the both of us. Look, if you ever calling me, call me number one. Oops, I did it again, about to double up. Look, up here, definition of a leveled up. All my celebrations always been premeditated, always been a step ahead. That's why you finish seconds later. Difference between us, I go back to back, you back to basics. These are facts you face, and I'm just saying you were dealing with the wrong one. This time, don't come for mine. Went the wrong way, now it's the wrong way. I'm in my zone, I'm in my zone, I'm in my zone, I'm in my zone, I'm in my zone.
The point of today was to create drag, right? There's in business and anything we do, there's a point of where we feel very comfortable, we're doing stuff, we have our shorts on and we're swimming gracefully in the water, and the next thing you know, we add these camis, we add this friction, we add this drag, and it slows us down, it weighs us down. And there's two options. We can get completely rid of the drag and throw it to the bottom of the pool, or one of the other things we can do is we can make a flotation device out of it. Give us the ability to catch our breath and focus outward on different things. So hiring a new VA, hiring a new person to take care of you know, the sales team, taking care of the offside, whatever it is. You know, those are the outlets that let you come back to the surface, refocus, and find the next adventure you want to go into.
Yeah, I came from nothing, but look at me now, I'm crushing. Old man had a hold that cutlass. Conan where the road was cutting. Yo man, let me show you something.
So we're here over at Escapeology in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the intention and purpose of being here is to work together as teams, right? And to solve problems, because that's what we do in our businesses all the time. So I'm excited to not only participate, but see how this works out.
I'm doing less on socials.
I think we're gonna win for sure. We're gonna win. We're competitive. I think we got a good set of guys. The other team's a little bit weak. I don't think that they collectively have the intelligence to make it happen. And I think we're gonna knock it out the box. I think when it comes to the intelligence and the competitiveness and putting it together, I'm gonna call out myself and nominate myself as MVP.
Man, look at how far I came up. I could be dead and gone, but God had different plans to save us, cause I'm from nothing.
I think it was a collaborative effort. You know, that's the thing about teams. It's teamwork makes the dream work. So it's everybody coming together. I think we put our combined knowledge and everything and made it happen.
And then Jose came in at the end and gave his one contribution. You want to see Jose the entire time?
He had no interest. Zero.
I don't have any interest. I just know my strengths.
Yeah.
You know? And there are certain strengths that I have, and that's definitely not one of them.
First, there ain't no time to rehearse it. That's just the way that it works, yeah. That's the way that
Hey, what we were saying though, which is really interesting, is like two things came up. It's like one, how quickly, if you're not engaged, your brain wants to shut down. It's like, fuck it. It's like, did you do that? You're like, fuck this. Your brain just shuts down, right? Which is interesting because like we're trying to solve, I was telling John, it's like, well, this is no different than me trying to like life hack. What's the fastest way for me to solve this problem, right? And then the other thing I thought was interesting is I heard from Tony Robbins recently has this meme going around that if you were going to teach your children 3 things, these are the 3 things. One is to be able to recognize patterns. Yes. Because there's patterns in the world and you just recognize those patterns. 2 is to be able to use the patterns. So you recognize them and then you can deploy them. That goes along with attention. That's a pattern and it works, and figuring out that pattern and deploying it. And then 3 is to be able to create patterns, right? Because that's what we were doing. We're trying to figure out patterns, and everybody's like looking around, like, I don't know, what do you think? You push a thing, or you don't. You figure it out, and you're like, okay, cool, and you move forward. So
the only thing
I thought that was fun.
The only thing I contributed is we moved the table, bro.
Whoa, careful. Careful.
I think it's probably not a good idea to say.
But thank God we moved that table. That helped us figure everything out.
Which means it didn't help you figure anything out. Today, we interviewed a billionaire. Have you ever interviewed a billionaire before?
First time.